Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. Okay, well, maybe not so happy. Interesting turn of events late yesterday evening, around 6 o'clock Eastern Time. Apparently, the U.S., using F 15s and F 16s, started launching, how do you want to put it, launches airstrikes, bombing missions for all intents and purposes, against Iranian militia forces on the Iraqi-Syrian border. Now, we all know what's going on in Syria, and I mean the powder keg that is, with Israel and Turkey and Russia and the U.S. and it's like everybody trying to go one way or the other here. Okay, but the fact that Potato Joe and the administration has authorized, if you will, military strikes, that ain't good, okay? I guess this is primarily against Hezbollah and, okay, terrorist organization. No doubt there. So now they're using this, if you will, to say we're protecting U.S. troops. I'm all for protecting U.S. troops. You guys know that, okay? But the fact that we're going in a situation like this, which willy-nilly, okay, this wasn't some surgical strike, like going after any of the terrorists that Trump went after and got rid of, al-Baghdadi or any of the guys like that. This was just hit everybody. I don't know what Joe's thinking here, but if Joe doesn't think there's going to be some sort of retaliatory strike somehow, he's foolish. Okay, I mean, granted, Joe's probably sound asleep. Okay, and didn't they'll tell him in the morning with his coffee. When he's having his Cheerios and his banana. But this is worrisome, guys. Okay. Because we already know you got a new president in Iran right now who does not want anything to do with the United States. He came out the other day and said they're closely aligning themselves with Russia and China. Not that that's a big surprise, okay? But we don't need to be stirring up any trouble, I guess, if you will, with all the trouble that we've got at home right now, all right? And again, I will say this for the umpteen millionth time. All of this trouble that is going on right now is being caused by the left. All right. The craziness about wokeness, the collapse of the economy, inflation, now I won't say this is an act of war, but this ain't good. And how the retaliation happens, if it's against U.S. troops somewhere, if it's against Israel somehow, if it's against one of our embassies, if it's against one of our ships in the Persian Gulf, however be, I mean, who knows if it's, on the U.S. mainland. I mean, that's a possibility, okay? Now, the bigger question is, why in the freaking world would he do it? Granted, it's like I always say, bury it over the weekend, Sunday night at 6 o'clock, okay? Not a whole lot of people see it. I'm going to pay attention to this stuff, okay? As I kind of finished up what I was doing and start checking the news, and I see this, and I was like, holy crap, what the hell is this noise? I mean, besides the fact of some of the other stuff that's going on in the world, I'm just trying to figure out why. We don't have a ton of details in yet as of any casualty record, reports. If there are any strategic targets struck, which I seriously doubt, because these were on the Iraqi-Syrian border. So I mean, this is militia. This is small bands of people potentially against Hezbollah. who is backed by Iran. So this is not a direct attack on Iran, but it's a direct attack on one of their arms, if you will. And, certainly they're going to support any sort of retaliation. After all, that's what terrorist nations do, okay? And considering Iran is the world's #1 state sponsor of terrorism, it's not going to come as any surprise that that's what's going on. So, this is not a maybe this happened or whatever. This is being reported all over the mainstream media, and of course, the international media as well. So, when you start looking at the players involved in this is when it gets worrisome, because look at World War I, for example. I mean, that was an assassination of Archduke Ferdinand, and we wound up in a World War I. Okay, what happens now if the counteroffensive, Hezbollah's counterattack goes against Israel? What happens if it goes against Turkey? What happens if it goes against Germany? Okay. You see how this can all really spiral into utter chaos. Now, I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. My guess is if there's any sort of retaliation, it's going to be, like I said, against an embassy, or something's going to happen out in the Persian Gulf or something like that. I mean, they only have so much reach. I mean, it's not like Hezbollah is some, huge military organization or something like that. I mean, it's a bunch of guys running around in, stolen pickup trucks with, AKs and all this sort of stuff. But it just tells you that you need to be on your toes, because at any time, the world can change. I mean, and it's like, as preppers, we always prep for that day in the future that we never know is coming, but it's always in the future. What happens if that day in the future all of a sudden winds up 20 minutes from now, and your whole world changes 20 minutes from now with no warning? Okay. That is very possible in a scenario like this. Every time you get some sort of toy soldier, i.e. Biden, trying to do something here, I mean, explain it. I mean, the common sense, or the comment, which just, to protect U.S. troops. Really? Okay. Unless we've got troops in combat, back and forth right now, which we don't, okay, unless there's stuff going on the Iraq-Syria border that we're involved in. There was no reason. This is provocative. Okay, that's all this was. So, yeah, not a good way to end a Sunday, start a Monday, but that's what's going on in the world. So pay attention today, guys. What's going on? Obviously, I'll keep an eyeball on if anything escalates here. But yeah, all of a sudden we decided that Sunday, June 27th was a good day to start bombing in the Mideast again. And, hey, all that means for all those politicians in Washington is, hey, let's crank up the military machine again. Let's start spending money that we don't have. Okay. Hey, what is it? We need a couple of more, bombs, planes, whatever it is. Hell, the Fed's just printing money. The Treasury's just printing money right now. Go ahead, get 6 more of them. No big deal. You want how much for that? Sure, let me just write you a check. Yep, that's what's going on, guys. Okay, your tax dollars are at work going for stupid stuff. What else would you expect out of Joe? Have a good Monday. Pinball out.